Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Spotlight on Addiction and Recovery. I'm your host, Scott Jones. I want to thank everyone for joining us today and remind you that if you like this show and you want to see more, then simply join us as a subscribe at the ATC Network on YouTube. Hit the like button and, of course, hit the bell so that you can get notified when we have other shows coming up. We also have a great lineup of shows we want to make sure you check out. Live Out Loud podcast every other Monday right here at the ATC Network. And, of course, our Spotlight on Addiction shows. For now, I want to thank everybody for joining us because we have a really special guest. This is somebody that I met. How long ago was that?
A few months ago.
Just a few months ago. Just a few months ago. And this is Blake Bailey with, I'm going to screw up the name. Elysian Sober Services. Elysian.
Yeah.
Why such a hard name?
Well, funny enough, when me and my friends were sitting around thinking of names, we had the idea, the concept for the business, but we didn't have a name. And my associate, Ben, who was actually one of the co-founders, he just started scrolling through Google, found names, and sure enough, he said this name, and I kind of liked the way that it sounded at the time, and then I looked it up, and the name actually means peaceful, serene, or divinely inspired. And so we thought for a recovery business that just kind of fits into what we want to kind of translate into our clients' lives, the people that we work with.
I like that. So it's Elysian.
Mm-hmm.
So it's ELYSIAN, Sober Services. Now, first of all, when we're saying sober services, that can mean a lot of things. So what do you guys do over there?
So we do a little bit of everything. The main things that we like to focus on is sober transportation, sober coaching, and sober companionship. Then we also do, thanks to you and Karen, we also do some intervention work as well.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. And then, he's saying thank you because he did take ATC's intervention course, the Certified Event Intervention. Want more information on that, go to atceducation.com. But, thanks for the plug, too. We appreciate it.
No problem.
But, so you're saying sober transport, companionship and things. So, people that are either in recovery or work in the business, obviously we know what those things are, but to the lay people out there, they might not understand what that means. So what would a sober transport do and how is that beneficial to somebody?
So sober transport can either be via ground, it can be via air. We've done both, right? So basically what you do is if it's via air, I'll just use our latest example and I'll just tell you about that. So we had a mother who her son was running amok up in Massachusetts, finally got him into detox. Well, she wanted to transfer him from Massachusetts down to Florida for continued care, and she wanted him out of the area. And he finally agreed. So she wanted to act while the iron is still hot, so to speak.
Right.
And so she called us. We arranged all of the flight details. We arranged everything from point A to point Z, and we sent one of our transports up to Massachusetts, picked him up in the airport, flew back down with him to basically just ensure that he was going to make it down here and not make any stops in between the way. And he was dropped off by the detox and then picked up by the referring facility. And it was just a very smooth, seamless transition. But basically what we do is we add extra support, extra accountability if you're going from point A to point B, because I know if I was left up to my own devices when I was going still from active addiction, going to any recovery center, detox, PHP, whatever, I may have, instead of going on a straight line, there may have been some curves.
Right. Yeah.
Or I just may have not even made it there to begin with.
I think people don't realize the amount of times that people, they go to get on a flight, and once they hit that airport, it becomes like a 50-50 whether they're actually going to make it or destination. One is they might start drinking heavily in the airport. We've seen many times where people aren't allowed on the plane because they've gotten themselves so inebriated just waiting at the airport that they've done that. Also getting off the plane, and there's always a little listen, for normal people getting through an airport, it's a pain in the ass at best. So to have somebody guiding you when you're not quite yourself is really a good idea.
Exactly. And it's just that extra accountability, and it's for the person that we're working with, for the client, but then also for the family. They get a peace of mind where they feel more secure, and instead of just hoping and praying that their son, daughter, whomever is going to just hopefully can guide their own way through. having that extra person, that almost like a bodyguard, so to speak, or just like a mentor along the way
Yeah.
to help guide them from point A to point B safely and soundly. Also, they get an additional little bit of recovery talk along the way if they feel up to it too. So
Yeah.
we can talk them and say, hey, you're doing a really good thing. Like, I'm glad I'm here to help
Yeah.
you out along the way. Or it's just someone to kind of get their mind off of what they're about to go into, because they could be sitting on there by themselves, be sitting on that plane the whole way. They're getting antsy, they're getting anxious.
Yeah.
And that just, their blood pressure starts to spike. They start to freak out. Well, having someone with them, you talk about, oh, isn't it nice weather? Have you ever been on a plane before? Like,
Yeah.
you're going down to Florida. Florida's beautiful. I love living in Florida. You keep it relaxed, kind of keep it easy. So that way,
More
they're
often than
getting
not, you're
anxious.
going to end up talking about football or
Yeah.
something. And it's not necessarily, you're not getting coached in recovery on the way there, because you're right. They need a distraction.
Mhm.
They need something just so they can feel normal, because they're about to do something that is completely abnormal to them.
Yeah.
By going into recovery. And no, that's great. So at the least, you're a buddy system. At best, you are somebody who's going to keep them from running,
Yeah.
keep them from harming themselves.
Mhm.
And anytime they take off, I mean, they fly to a new city and then they hit the ground running.
Yep.
That's a dangerous situation, especially when we see more and more drugs out there that are just one and done, like the fentanyl crisis and
Yes.
stuff. Are you guys like making sure that you're keeping up to date on all of that and being educated in what's going on out there?
Yeah, so we are actually Narcan certified, or Narcan trained, and CPR certified as well. So when we go out, just in case, because we deal with people who are coming from an inpatient setting who may have already been detoxed, and the risk of them overdosing is not nearly as high as if someone's coming straight from their house.
Yeah.
So we are certified in that. We are prepared for that, and we know that that is a very high risk, because I've heard of stories in my time working in treatment too. I've heard of stories of people sneaking stuff into the airport, go to the bathroom. They don't make it on their flight because they overdose in the
Right,
bathroom or
right.
something like that. So we know that is a possibility, but we have taken the measures to help reduce any chances of that.
That's excellent. So the sober escort is a great idea. I mean, listen, if you're driving somebody across town, that's not that, do it, but it's fine. But you're right. Traveling cross country or
Mhm.
when it's any kind of delay in transport, you need somebody there to be there with them.
Yes.
Everybody thinks, well, if I put them on the plane, they get off the plane, they're going to be met at the plane door and they're not going to go any. Unfortunately, airports don't work that way anymore.
Exactly. That's not the
Which
case.
means there's about 2 miles of walking you got to do
Yep.
before you even get to the place where a sober person can meet you.
Mhm.
And that's a real disappearing thing. And they can't just walk around the airport looking for somebody. So it's important for this.
Yeah.
I mean, is this like only for rich people? Because it sounds like something that would be, or do you guys work with people to really make it affordable?
We like to make it affordable. Like, obviously we have a set price because it has to amount for time, travel time, things of that
Of
nature.
course.
Also the energy and just all the time put in by whomever is going to companion the client,
Yeah.
whoever we're working with, right? But if we have that set price, if we talk to the family, I'm usually the first one to talk to the family, and I can kind of gauge them, feel them out a little bit. And if they have any serious issues about it, I say, well, what can we do to work together?
You'll see if you can work it
Because
out. Yeah.
we still want to help you. We still want to make sure your son, daughter, loved one gets to where they need to go safely, but also it has to, cover the cost of the time and
course.
all of that
Of
too.
course.
And especially, because if we have to basically be in, or we have this person's safety in our hands at this point. So we have to make sure that we're getting covered, but also we don't want to break anyone's bank. We don't want to
No, of course.
steal money out of people's pockets.
I know some people go really over the top with some of the pricing and stuff.
Yeah.
You've seen those people, and it feels like they're just taking advantage. You
Mhm.
you try to work with them, and I think that's great. Obviously, they have to pay for your flight and your
Yeah.
the travel and stuff like that. But I want you to think about it, because some people might be thinking, well, that's paying for a flight. But we've seen many times where families have had to pay for 3 or 4 flights because the
Exactly.
loved one keeps either taking off, or even situations if they're too inebriated to get on the flight. Airlines don't say, okay, we'll give you your money back. To them, they're like,
Here's a
bad
credit.
on you. You're charged.
Yeah.
You're charged. And I don't even know if insurance covers that because the person just was unable to get on the flight. But it all depends. But I think it's a good service. Now, you also have sober coaching. And other
Sober
things like that.
companionship. Mhm.
Sober companionship. What is that about?
So sober companionship is a little bit more intensive, you can
Okay.
say, just because it's live in. So let's say you loved one, someone has an important business venture that they need to meet, right? And they have to stay sober from the first of the month until the 31st of the month. Just a general example. Well, they say, I can't go inpatient for treatment. I can't stop drinking on my own. I need basically someone here to give me that additional accountability to make sure that I don't drink or that I don't use. And I need to get to this point and I need to make it there sober. I need to just make it to this day sober. Well, that's when the sober companion will come into play and we will go basically live in with them and just show them daily routines and daily activities of how to, just get up in the morning, start a daily healthy habit, go to the gym, do X, Y, and Z, do just daily stuff that normal people do without drinking or using drugs along the way, which
Right.
seems very simple. But if you are stuck in a cycle of addiction, you don't know how to just get up and make your bed or just go to the grocery store without having a drink or using something in between, just daily things that people take for granted that addicts and alcoholics seem to have trouble with sometimes.
So it's I like this because now you were saying that people who couldn't go to treatment, but if somebody goes to treatment too, we all know that a better idea is after you go to treatment is to go into a sober living where you can regain some of those skills.
Mhm.
But there's people that's not viable. It's not viable because of their jobs or because of whatever it might be. So that you might be the better option to say, I need a sober companion. I went to treatment, but I can't go to all those halfways. But I'd like somebody there for the first couple of weeks or month or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So that's a good option for them as well, right?
It's a good option. Now, of course, because we are not medical professionals. Like we don't claim to be nurses or doctors, anything like that. So
Absolutely.
if someone needs a full medical detox and then maybe some stabilization, we will always push for that because we don't want to detox someone on their couch, especially if they're coming off alcohol or benzos. That can be very dangerous. So we take personal accountability into that, saying like, hey, maybe you should go be seen by some
Yeah.
professionals first, and then we will follow up with you afterwards once you're stabilized, once you're safe. It's all
Right.
about the health of the person that we're working with. So we won't get into that area because we are not a treatment center and we are not medical professionals.
You're not treating their addiction. You're there to help them build a recovery lifestyle.
Yes.
So that's a different animal. And I like that. I like
Yes.
that. I like it when people know that we don't do these things.
Yeah.
These are our limits. So it sounds to me like if you're going to be doing this sober companionship, you're kind of like this combination of I'm your buddy, I'm your motivator,
Mhm.
I'm your teacher, I'm your cheerleader, I'm your companion, whatever it might be. I
Yeah.
mean, you guys, I guess it changes with everybody with what they kind of need at that moment, right?
Yeah, and we kind of have it set up where it's almost a la carte service, so to speak.
Okay.
Because we understand that not everybody is for everybody. So we have different people that we can plug and play to whomever we need to work with. Some people, maybe they already have a good gym regimen, but they want to get more ingrained in their local recovery scene, or they want to just learn how to do daily stuff sober. Or some people, we have Jerry alongside with us. He's a big strong guy. He works out
Yeah.
every single day, probably at like 5-6 o'clock in the morning while I'm still sleeping. So if that person wants a more
Good
healthy,
for you, Jerry.
yeah, if they
Making
want,
us all look bad, brother.
yeah, I know. Trust me, I get it every day I see him. But if someone wants that more like health, gym regimen,
Right.
then we would plug and play Jerry in that aspect. But basically, what we are, and I just want to say we are not in lieu of treatment. No, we
No.
always want to work with treatment centers, and so that way they can get like the one-on-one therapy. They can get, counseling, especially if there's different mental health stuff going on. They need that because, again,
Yeah.
we are not the therapists.
No.
We are not the medical professionals. Now, we like to think of ourselves more as a continuum of care.
Right.
So after, even if someone does do, just maybe just a detox for a couple weeks, 30 days, whatever, in an inpatient setting, and they say, I still don't trust myself to go back home. I want someone here with me because I know I have a court date or I have this and that I need to get to. And I just don't trust myself, even after 30 days inpatient, to still not go home and drink. I know there's still booze in that one cabinet in my bathroom, you know how alcoholics
Yeah,
hide
yeah.
their booze around the place. I still know that booze is there, and I don't trust myself to not go back there and throw it away myself.
But there's also the piece that, and you started mentioning it, and I think it's brilliant, is treatment can only go so far. I mean, you're dealing with the withdrawal, you're dealing with post-acute withdrawal syndrome,
Mhm.
you're dealing with getting them to just basically do basic self-care. And how much more are you going to get done in 30 to 45 days in treatment?
Yeah.
So when people go home, everyday life skills are kind of a mystery. It's kind of
Mhm.
a, so this is excellent where you come in and it's like, okay, now that you've kind of gotten sober, how do you live in sobriety? And that's kind of where you
Exactly.
guys come in. It's like, that's where it's kind of, people use the word coach, and I think it gets thrown out around way too much now. It's because everybody wants to be a coach,
Yeah.
but there is a certain amount of coaching that people need, or else they're going to look at everyday simple tasks and scratch their head and say, how do I do this without a drink? How do I
Ye-
do that? And to have somebody there just to say, well, let's do it together and see how it feels.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah, well, I like to think of it more as a mentor, because if you think of
Yeah.
a coach, you're kind of like calling the shots. Well, a mentor is more to just be like, hey, that's a good idea, but what if we try it this way?
There
Kind
you
of
go.
like point you in the right direction instead of just saying you need to do this, because we're there to work side by side with them. We're not there to dictate their lives, because they brought us on hoping that we can guide them in the right direction. Or if they want to bring someone on to just be like, just sit here next to me on the couch while we watch Netflix and don't let me drink, then we can do that too, right? But of course, along the way, our job is to
As long as they watch
help.
good shows.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, come on.
Yeah. But it really depends on who we're working with,
Yeah.
and we will work with that person on what exactly they want. But all of us have our own views on recovery, and we've been in recovery for, I think, I have the least amount of recovery at almost 4 years, and then our CEO Tiffany has coming up on, I want to say, like 9 or 10. I mean,
All right.
almost double digit sobriety, and so we all have a wide variety of different things that we've experienced, and we just want to pass along these messages to other people that may not have the same opportunities to get that help.
I really like kind of where you guys are, because you're sober long enough to have some really good stability and have gone through a lot of things,
Hmm.
but not so far sober that you forgot
Yeah.
that these are the things that baffled us,
Hmm.
and those are things I'm going to watch for when I'm helping somebody to make sure that they're okay. And like I said, I love the mentor idea, because mentors, you bounce ideas off of them.
Yeah.
Somebody to kind of mirror you so you can see
Exactly.
what's going on. A coach, again, screaming from the corner,
Hmm.
go do it. Um, Although sometimes people need that too.
Some people
Some
need
people
that.
might actually say, I need you to tell me
Yeah.
what to think and how to walk and how to talk every day for a little while.
Yeah.
You get some of those, I'm sure, that just
100%.
give me everything, because
Yeah.
I don't even want to try to think.
Yeah, some people are like a deer in headlights. They
Yeah.
exactly like you said. They said, I don't know what to do with my hands," and so they literally just don't know how to live. I mean, me, for example, I was 22 when I got sober. I was acting like a 16-year-old because that's when I started using and drinking. My mind was kind of stuck in that mindset. I don't think I ever once made my bed until I got sober. And my mom, I think that was the happiest part of me being sober, was my mom, or the happiest my mom was just knowing that I make my bed every morning.
Wow.
And it's like certain things like that where even if I have the worst day, I can still go back to my room and be like, at least I did one thing right. I can mess up everything else, and at least I did one thing right by
Yeah.
making my bed, making myself feel accomplished, taking care of myself, because that's something that I didn't do when I was in active addiction.
So, those little things you could show people. It was like people are like, well, why would making my bed make a difference? And a lot of people don't understand. It's like, first of all, yes, it is a commitment to doing one thing every day.
Mhm.
It's an accomplishment. And what they don't realize is every time you come home at the end of your day and you walk into your room and the bed is made, it's like that. It's almost like that soothing kind of,
Yeah.
somebody cared about me enough to make the bed. It was me. I cared about
Mhm.
myself enough so that now when I crawl into bed, it feels good. It feels like
Yep.
somebody cares. And that kind of self-care is really important. They don't see all that. So those are the kind of things you got to be there for, right?
Yeah, and those are the kind of things that we want to help guide people into doing for themselves.
Yes.
Because it seems very common. It seems very like, oh, I should do that. But And when you're stuck in addiction or alcoholism, when you're stuck in the thick of it, you don't think about any of that stuff. The last thing that was on my mind was making my bed.
Yeah.
That was the last thing on my mind. I didn't care about that. I didn't care about cleaning my apartment. I didn't care about anything else. I just wanted that one thing.
Hmm.
And that one thing was continued to go get drunk and high. That's all I wanted in active addiction.
But it's those small things that add up.
Mm-hmm.
Cleaning up,
Oh,
doing
yeah.
your dishes.
Yeah.
Those things, I mean, it seems silly, but those things add up because with each thing you ignore, you're adding to the pile of stress and anxiety or
Exactly.
things like that, right?
And that's another thing that we want to teach people along the way is because people will, especially new in recovery, they'll start future tripping, weeks, months, years into the future. And it's like, hey, calm down. You're not even there yet. When I was first getting sober, I said, oh, I can't even drink champagne at my wedding. And I had a guy tell me, dude, you don't even have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like, calm down. Why are you worrying about that? Something that might not happen for another 10 years. Calm down. Just focus about today.
Yeah.
And then maybe tomorrow, maybe focus about getting to work tomorrow. Cause that's pretty important. Just take it day by day by day.
I did have a client who was the same thing.
Yeah.
Was really upset, was in treatment and spent an hour of group time crying and being upset in front of everybody. We're all being supportive and we're helping her. And she's like, I just, when my daughter gets married, I have this thing about drinking champagne and I have all these things in my head. And finally, somebody in the group just kind of says, by the way, how old is your daughter? She goes, well, she's 3. 3 years old. It sounds stupid, but that's where people go when they're dealing with addictions. They get stuck in these scenarios that in normal life don't even make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm sure sometimes you might have, I want to make sure we make this clear. You're not a maid service. You're not there to clean up people.
Yes.
You're not there to do their dishes or cook their meals or make their beds. You're not there to do that. Is there sometimes those situations where it's like you got to draw a line with people?
Well, I mean, we may be like, if it's to the point where someone's like doesn't know how to wash a dish, like, hey, you put the soap on there and then you take the sponge.
Yeah, I mean, instructing
we'll
is one thing.
Yeah, we'll show them, but we are not gonna. No, we're not gonna sit there, fluff your pillow, and put a little chocolate mint on the pillow for you. Like we're not the the Four Seasons. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
Because that's not what we're there for.
Right.
You brought us on because you want to know how to live sober. Well, let us show you how to live.
Yeah.
But we can't live for you.
It must be interesting to walk in new situations all the time because there's got to be, even no matter how much interviewing you do ahead of time and how much information you gather, until you meet that person, you really got no idea how am I going to fit into this scenario and what's my best role here. So is that exciting for you to do that, knowing that every time I meet somebody, I might have to take on a whole new role?
It's exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time because, like you said, we can sit there and we can interview people, we can talk to them on the phone, we can do X, Y, and Z, all the stuff that we have drafted up to try and prepare ourselves as best as possible. But I know from my experience working in treatment, like I'll talk to people on the phones, but no one wants to tell you everything up front because they're afraid, oh, if I tell Blake this, then he's not going to want to do this, or if I tell him that, then they're going to think this way. So people may tell you everything and it may all be factual, but you get there and it's, just like I hear, I've heard in recovery, more is to be revealed. So as soon as you walk through the threshold of their house, you said, you don't know what you're going to expect. And it can be nerve wracking, but like you said, it's also exciting because it keeps us on our toes. It keeps us fresh. We've never there's no cookie cutter experience because everybody is different. And that's the exciting part, is to learn how to move and navigate and kind of, you go one way, you try one tactic with one person, but then it doesn't work. So you have to pivot and you have to try something new. And we learn stuff along the way too. We learn more about ourselves, learn more about them, learn more about people in general, addicts, alcoholics in general, and just how to handle different situations.
Very much like the adaptability of the intervention course that you took with us and stuff, but it's always something different. I know this is also a heartbreaking thing to do, a heartbreaking business.
It is.
We lose more than we care to. And I'm sure you've had situations where you guys have really gone above and beyond, maybe even made connections with people. It's tough not to like most people too, and then find out it didn't work or we've lost them. How does that affect you personally?
It hurts. It hurts a little bit in here. Um, but
I think it's
we
good that it
can't.
hurts. I don't want to ever be in that place where it's like, you know what, I just got to numb myself to it, because
Yeah,
we shouldn't. Because it should never be okay for that to happen, right?
it's never okay. And what I was gonna say is, I've gotten to the point where I know I'm not saving anyone's life. That is not my responsibility. I can't put their life on my shoulders, or I will weigh myself down. But what I can give another person is an opportunity to save their own life, or put their life in the hands of something greater than themselves, that they can then be saved, so to speak.
Hmm.
I know for a fact I am not going to save anyone's life unless I'm doing CPR on them. Like,
Right,
that's the
right,
only
right, right,
time.
right.
Like, but whether it's the companionship, whether it's the transportation that I do, I can only set someone up for success so far.
Hmm.
And it is heartbreaking when you do as much as you can, and then you hear a couple months down the line, like, hey, so and so didn't make it, or it didn't stick. And it is heartbreaking, because you always tell yourself, well, what if I did more, what if I did that, and the what ifs start to pile on. And at a certain point, you have to shake that off and realize you did as much as you can. Your side of the street was cleared, you did everything. And it was ultimately up to them. Do they want to take the advice and the things that you had offered them, or do they not want to take it?
And you have Allegion's a small
Very, yeah.
family company, really, because you guys are family. I've seen you
Hmm.
guys together. Um, so do you guys process those things together as well, as like things didn't work out? Do you sit down and say, okay, are there things we could do to improve? Are you constantly looking for new ways to reach people or to help people? Or is that something that's important to you guys?
Yeah, always. I mean, going back to what you said earlier, some of the we have these set prices for things, and one of the most things that we get is, just last week we had someone for our transportation say, "Oh, that's more expensive than an Uber," and I blatantly said to her, I said, yes, I understand it's
That's
more
funny.
expensive than an Uber,
Yeah.
but you also want your son to go from Orlando to Miami. One, I don't know if there's any Ubers that are going to drive that far. Maybe there are. Two, that Uber has nothing holding back from it. If your son says, "Hey, buddy, can you stop at the Shell station? I want to grab a drink," he may go in there by a tall boy or a couple, or he may have his
Right.
phone, say, "Hey, can you stop here at this house? Run in, grab something, go back." There's nothing, or he just may never make it there.
Yeah. I
And
mean, they're not paying you just for transport. They're paying you for the supervision, the motivation,
mhm,
the accountability. I mean,
yeah.
it's really that's getting them from A to B is the smallest part of what you do.
Exactly, and that's where I was kind of I was kind of, I don't want to say heartbroken, but I was upset that this mom didn't understand that. She
Yeah.
was more focused about the money, and she even said, "Well, the money is not an issue. I want to make sure he gets there safe." But you just
Yeah.
contradicted what you just said, because I can tell you that I'm gonna pick him up in Orlando and then drive him to Miami. I'm gonna fill up in Orlando, so I know I have enough gas to make it there. We're not stopping anywhere. We're going from point A to point B, nothing in between. And I can guarantee you, I'm not letting your son out of my sights the entire way. But also, I'm going to talk to him about recovery the entire way there, so he knows that he was a younger kid too, said, "Hey, I got sober when I was 22. I'm almost 4 years sober now. Like, my life is amazing now, and I get to help
Wow.
other people like you." But it's heartbreaking when families only see one obstacle, and they want to go the softer, easier route of just like saving a couple bucks, when their loved one's life is a lot more expensive than just a couple bucks.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny because you're almost like, with your transport and then with the companion stuff, it's almost like, we're there at the beginning to
Hmm.
motivate them to go do what they got to do.
Yeah,
And then we're there at the end to say, okay, now that you've done what you got to do, how do we make it stick? How can we help you?
yeah.
So it's really neat to sandwich those things.
We do a little bit of everything, and even before the transport, we could do the interventions now,
That's
thanks to
right.
you guys. And
That's
so
right.
we could literally be there. We could do an intervention, drop them off at wherever they need to go, and then they complete however many days at that facility. And then afterwards, they say, I remember Blake helped me out with my intervention. He even dropped me off. We talked about recovery the whole way. I need some additional help. I want to see how Blake can help me out. And then Jimmy's mom will call me up and say, "Hey, my son's about to get out. Do you think that we can enlist some of your other services?" And I said, "Of course, I want to help out as much as possible." So we can be there from beginning to end. And that's what I think the beauty of our services is because, again, we're not in lieu of treatment. I think treatment's
Right.
very important to remove someone from their mindset, especially if they need a detox. I mean, that's like the most important part, getting
Absolutely.
through that safely, right? But also just breaking that daily routine of whatever they were stuck in while they were using, and also letting their mind clear up. Maybe they need to get on the right medications. They need to talk about they have some PTSD from whatever it is. They need to see a trauma therapist. Those are all things that we are not. Like me and my 3 business partners, we don't claim to be that, right? So we know that treatment is important, but we also want to help get you there. We want to help get you to commit to start to change your own life, and we want to be there afterwards so we can help see you through.
See, that's fantastic. We talked a little bit about, sometimes it's heartbreaking.
Hmm.
Have you had moments where you're like, this is why I do this?
Yeah.
Where
Uh-huh.
maybe you've seen somebody transform in front of you.
Yeah, so we had one pickup. The guy was a mess. Bless his heart. He had missed a handful of flights, like we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. And the first flight that we send a companion over there to go pick him up, there was a lot of stuff in between. There was like some delayed flights, missed stuff. It was a long day for our transport and the client. Long story short, he gets there. As soon as we have someone with him, that extra accountability, he finally makes it down here. He goes to a local detox in Port St. Lucie. We don't hear anything from him for a while, because we assume that he's, going through treatment,
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. Well, I touch base, or I bump into a guy who was actually at the treatment center that he was. He says, "Hey, that guy that you dropped off to us? He's doing real good now. He's doing real good. He's still sober. He's back home. He's still sober, going back to work, doing everything, and he's doing real good." And I said, "Man, this is why we do these things, right? Some of these, everyone has an opportunity to change their own life. And,
Yeah.
like I said before, none of us think that we're saving anyone's life. We are setting you up with the opportunity to help change your own life, essentially. Right. And when people finally take charge of their life and they say, I am done with feeling the way that I was feeling, I'm done with drinking, I'm done with using, that's when we kind of get that sense of fulfillment. Like, wow, we help play a role in that. Even if it's just the smallest role of just picking someone up and dropping them off, we help play a role in that. And that's where we feel like this is all worth it.
And I'm sure like you said, that one guy, you had all those problems getting him. Now he's doing good. And sometimes you look at people and it's like, even us in the business, we try not to do this, but we're human. And sometimes look at me like, oh man, no chance.
Yeah.
Wow. Really? And we're like,
yeah,
but we're like, okay, we got to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But if I had to put money on it, this ain't going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and they surprise the hell out of you. And it's like, wow. And just have a small piece of that journey with them. Yeah. You didn't fix them. You didn't make them better.
No.
But you shared part of that journey. And maybe you just kept him on track during his journey. Maybe that was your role. But to feel part of that has got to be great.
Yeah. And where we felt the most, or, I talked about it with my business partners, but I can only speak for me personally. I feel like they would agree. But how I felt the most accomplished is because I spoke to this guy on the phone prior. I got everything lined up. I said, our transport Pat, he's going to be there and meet you at the airport. And, I talked to them along the way. And this guy, honestly, he missed a handful of flights before. So who knows how long it was going to take. Chances are he might get on the next plane by himself. He might not. But where I felt the most accomplished is, again, we can help set him up on the right track. Because the first time that someone else was just with him to basically just be like, we're doing this, dude. Like, come on, let's go. Just kind of like shake him awake. Like, oh, this is happening. He finally made it down and he finally got the help that he needed. And he just needed, some people just need that extra little push to kind of get their butt in gear.
And you kind of deal with that. One of the biggest problems right at the beginning is when people feel like, they're about to go into treatment, they feel so alone. Mm-hmm. They feel so lost and alone. And just to have somebody by your side and saying, hey, let's do this together, buddy. Let's go. It could change the world for somebody.
Yep.
It could be that simple. It could also be a lot more talk. I mean, I'm sure you've had times when it's like every minute of the trip, I'm talking and trying to keep this guy positive or this girl positive.
Yeah.
And, I think that's brilliant. I think what you guys do is brilliant.
Yeah.
How do people get a hold of you guys and find out more about you?
They can visit us online at ElesianSoberServices.com. We also have our main number. I believe it's 833-626-6264.
Okay. Well, it'll be on the screen
We'll
because I'm
post it
going to
up
be putting it
there.
on the screen. It'll be
We'll
out
post it
there.
up there. But
ElesianSoberServices.com
yeah,
is a good way to do it. And your number will be on there. And you guys are always willing to answer questions.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't cost anything for them to call and say,
no,
you
not
know,
at all.
how can I help? Now with your nice, I'm a professional. Don't do this at home. With your sober services, including intervention, transportation, companion, and I guess coach kind of works in there as well.
Mhm.
But all of that's kind of soup to nuts. At any stage, there's still something that you could probably do to help. So just call and ask questions, right?
Yeah, just feel free to call. If you call that main number on there, I'm going to be the first person to pick it up. And you can talk to me personally. And if you just want to call and chat for 20 minutes about what do I do here, I can help point you in the right direction. And let's just see where it goes. We're not going to charge people for a phone call. Like that's not us, right? We want to actually help you. And if all that you need to help get your mind clear is just a phone call, then that's free of charge.
Yeah, information
Yeah.
could be really important. Don't just assume things and don't ignore things. One last thing is there's a lot of people out there that they've gone through recovery. They spent a little bit of time sober, but they're reaching that point, and usually it's during that first year, maybe even the first 2 years, where people have these kind of peaks and valleys in their recovery, where they start to feel really vulnerable or scared, or they're not dealing with something well. Could somebody call and say, "I'd really like to have somebody come and stay with me for a week or two"? And are those the kind of things?
100%.
So kind of a relapse prevention as well. It's not just about beginning of recovery, but it could be if you're going through a hard time in your recovery, maybe you need a companion. Is that something you guys do?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, if you want to bring one of us on as a continued mentor and you feel like you're getting to the point where you're anxious, you're stressed, you are sober for however long, but you just feeling like I'm missing something. I need a buddy. I need a companion. I need a mentor with me. Then we'll have someone out there as quick as possible.
Because there are life happenings that
Yeah.
a divorce or death, job change,
Yep.
or anything that's a huge stressor. If you don't have that system in place, and sometimes you might not, maybe you're the solution for that. So that'd be a good time for people to call too. Don't wait until you relapse. It doesn't mean you have to relapse
Exactly.
and do all of that stuff. Get some support for your recovery.
Yeah, and like you said, if you or someone else that is on the brink of that, then definitely reach out before, because relapse doesn't have to be part of the story. I know people who have gone to 15, 20 treatment centers. They get a gift basket every year from their favorite treatment center saying, "Hey, thanks for keeping the lights on every year." That sort of thing. I know people like that.
I know.
And then I myself and, Jerry, we went to one treatment center, one detox, like one rehab, picked up a white chip at our first AA meeting, and we're both 4 years sober. So I know people on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And relapse does not have to be part of anyone's story, but it's a matter of, are you going to set yourself up for success at the beginning? Are you going to actually ask for help? Because that's the main thing. I never would have got sober if I didn't ask for help. I know it sounds very simple, but people just say, "Why can't I wake up and stop drinking?" Well, it's because you're probably an alcoholic or an addict. I can't tell you that, but I can help maybe point you in the right direction to figure that out on your own.
Right.
But you have to ask for help. You have
Excellent. Excellent. People you work with, good people.
to. Amazing people. I love them. Like you said, we are a family. We bicker like brothers and sisters, but at the end of the day, we love each other to death. Yeah.
And everyone is committed to the same thing, is helping another human being.
100%. That's what it's about at the end of the day. We kind of saw how this came about is we noticed gaps in recovery and treatment, because we have all worked in treatment. We all have our own experiences, and we all knew that, nobody from the detox is going to fly out to go pick the person up to then make sure that they get there. And we know of people just missing flights and then never showing up, or we know about people that do 30, 40, 60 days inpatient and then go back home and then relapse within a week. So why is this happening if they should have gotten all the help that they needed inside wherever they went to, but there's still gaps being missed on the
Yeah.
front end and the back end, and we just want to fill those gaps so we can help as many people as possible.
Well, Blake, I mean, it makes sense. It's great to learn all this stuff in the 30 or 60 days that I'm in a safe environment.
Yeah.
And then I go out in the real world and it's like, okay, I got all these tools, but I haven't had to use them
Mhm.
in a regular daily experience life, in a
Exactly.
daily situation life. And sometimes having somebody with you, so to just say, okay, these are the tools that you learned. Now I'll show you. I mean, you can't just give somebody a wrench and expect them to know how to use the wrench properly. You got to have somebody
Exactly.
with you who could say, here, let me show you. I'll do a little bit. Now you do a little bit and let's do it together. And boom. Next thing you know, they know how to use the tools they learned.
Exactly. And that's all that we can do. We can show you how to use those tools. We can give you the whole toolbox, but
Yeah.
if you don't know, but you still have to use it yourself. Like, we can't sit there and we can't turn the wrench for you. We can't live your life. You have to do it. And so what we want to show you is how to live your life.
Absolutely.
And we have our own experiences with, like you said, loss, grief, happiness. I mean, like, every emotion in between. Life doesn't stop happening just because you get sober, which I think is something funny that people tend to forget. I see these people that are 30, 60, 90 days sober, and they think that, everything's going to be rainbows and kittens because they got sober. Well, trust me, buddy, like, it's not always true. Life
No.
still happens, and I experienced it, myself at 4 months sober. At 4 months sober, I lost my brother to a motorcycle accident. And I thought, like, I'm sober now. Everything needs to be perfect. Everything needs to
This
just
isn't
keep
fair,
turning.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this isn't fair, right? And I slowly had to realize I had to talk to other people, and I had to, obviously, I worked through it. I sought some outside help, and through a lot of therapy and work, I realized, like, life still happens, man. Life still happens, but I know people that have relapsed over less,
Yeah.
and I want to share my story through this business and through just my personal experience. I want to share my story that you can stay sober and you can make it through anything.
I agree. Generally, later in recovery, relapses are around the bigger issues.
Mm-hmm.
But early in recovery, more people relapse over a broken shoelace than they do over losing a
Yeah,
job.
yeah,
The big issues is like, okay, I understand the big issues. I'm not allowed to drink, but you just break that shoelace once too often, or that,
oh yeah,
or you go to drink your Diet Coke and you open it and it sprays all over you. And like,
yeah.
screw it, my life is horrible. That's it, I'm done. And
Oh, that's it. That's
those
it,
are
I'm done.
great moments to have a companion
Yeah.
there to calm you and even laugh with you and just say,
Exactly.
hey, it's soda. Let's
That's-
move on.
That's daily life.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Guys, I want you to check more into it because we could talk about this forever. We're close to it right now. But I want to thank Blake. Thank you so much for coming in, Blake Bailey,
Thank
with
you.
Elysian Sober Services. You guys are doing a great job. I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you letting me come in and talk your ear off a little bit. Thank you guys for listening. And Scott's going to post some of our info. So if you or anyone else that you know is looking or needing for help, please give us a call, reach out, any day, any time of day, just reach out and someone will be there to help you out.
Absolutely. There are no stupid questions. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So make sure you ask questions, reach out, talk to everybody over there at Elysian, and find out what great people they are. And we'll do anything for our loved ones. And if you really mean that, then make sure you look at all the options you have to help them. This just might be one of the good ones. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll catch you next time right here on Spotlight on Addiction and Recovery.